Good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Dean. I'm the owner and proprietor of Health and Happiness Personal Training. Um, Slight change to the next blog. One of my friends, West Ham friend, he's got type 2 diabetes and has asked me to have a look at carbohydrates because he's trying to get his weight under control. So I wanted to just do rejig the order a little bit. You'll see that there's no cats involved or gate crashing, photo bombing this blog. Actually taken some precautions and put my cats out for this in the back garden. So you've just got me, unfortunately. So carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are things like bread, potatoes, rice, pasta, couscous, plantain, yams. The list goes on. Now, there's a bit of a misnomer around carbohydrates. A lot of people think that you will put on weight with carbohydrates, and a lot of people think that by removing carbohydrates from your diet, you are more likely to actually lose weight. However, people actually put on weight or don't lose weight for a very simple reason that they consume more energy a day than they burn. And that's regardless of whether it's carbohydrates or protein or any other of the major food groups. For example, a bodybuilder will put on weight because they primarily will eat a lot of protein, and that will, over a course of weeks, help them put on weight, which through their fitness regime, they will end up turning that into muscle growth. And I don't think any. So that's the first misnomer, completely busted. But also, I don't think any dietitian, nutritionist, any Weight Watcher type group will ever encourage you to not eat carbohydrates or to completely remove carbohydrates as a food source. The reasons for this is, one, it's our most important source of energy. Carbohydrates are very dense in energy because they turn to glucose in your body, which is then stored. Which obviously, if you overconsume that storage is how you actually put on weight. But also, carbohydrates are good for you because they're a source of fibre. Especially if you eat brown rice, brown pasta, brown bread, blah blah blah, because fibre is seen to keep you fuller for longer, so you're less likely to feel hungry after eating brown rice than something that is refined like white rice. Excuse me. But also, carbohydrates are actually a source of protein. Not a lot of people know that, I don't think. They are a source of protein, but they do contain a lot of multivitamins and minerals, which are essential to a fully functioning body. So what it comes down to is portion control. And there is a recommended amount of carbohydrates that you eat per day, which I'll come on to. But it's difficult because we are encouraged to eat more nowadays, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinions. We've got bigger plates. When you go to a restaurant, there's big portions. It's now per chip. Should I say, cheaper to buy a larger Big Mac meal, to use McDonald's as an example, than to buy a regular meal. So it's all about encouraging you to eat more, but also if now there's more food available than when I was a kid and when my mum and dad were kids and when my nan and granddad were kids. Like, you've got vending machines, you've got every corner there's a chicken shop which will offer you £2.50, say, for chicken and chips. It's just much more food out there, and one of the things I come on to in a later blog, I think, is that you should never really leave the house hungry or plan your day that you know that when you're going through these highly dense areas of food, you're not hungry, because you're more likely to make ill-disciplined decisions because your body is telling you you're hungry, and that's when you're more likely to overconsume, especially carbohydrates. So a portion, coming to a bit of a scientific thing. A portion then is an amount of food you put on your plate, whereas a serving is a standard measurement, a standard size of something like carbohydrates or protein. So a portion can actually be made up of a number of servings, and that's quite an important point. So for women, it's recommended that you don't exceed 7 servings of carbohydrate per day, whereas men, we actually get extra. We get extra one. So men can have 8 servings, up to 8 servings of carbohydrates per day. And to put that in perspective, a serving is 1 slice of bread. A serving is 2 tablespoons of boiled rice. A serving is 3 tablespoons of boiled pasta or couscous. It's also 2 egg-sized potatoes or half a jacket potato. So you can see how very easily you can actually exceed your daily allowance of carbohydrates, which, as I said earlier, if you consume more than you burn, you are going to put on weight. And it's important to note that, because no one ever goes from 10 stone to 15 stone. They go from 10 stone to 10 stone 1, 10 stone 1 to 10 stone 2. And if you do that every week, the trend will be putting on weight. And over a 6-month period, you could easily go from 10 stone to 13 stone without actually doing much wrong, apart from exceeding your portion control, whether it's carbohydrates or protein or there's so much as there's a saying that there's too much of a good thing. So the whole idea, I think, is to plan your day. I mentioned planning last week in my blog on Gegenpress. I know it's a completely different subject, but planning is vital, and there's no difference with planning in terms of football pressing to planning with food. So my mum, she plans her weekly food, her menus, and then breaks it down each day, and therefore you're more likely to control what you're eating. So if you're a woman and you recommended to eat up to 7 servings per day, if you basically took them 7 servings in your main meals, which is breakfast, lunch and dinner, you can actually have 3 servings for breakfast, 2 servings for lunch, 2 servings for dinner, which is 7. So 2 servings of cereal, 3 servings of cereal in the morning is 9 tablespoons. So it'd be quite interesting to see if you do have breakfast. Be interesting to actually work out how many tablespoons you're actually putting in cereals, because you could easily actually exceed your daily allowance before you've even left the breakfast table. So, as I say, 9 tablespoons of cereal, 1 jacket potato is 2 servings for, say, lunch, and that is 2 servings, because half a jacket potato is 1 serving. And then for dinner, 4 heaped tablespoons of pasta is 2 servings. Now, so that totals up to 7. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, if you did have brown rice, brown pasta, and had your meat and your veg, etc., that should be enough to actually feel full for the day. So, in summary, I've hopefully busted the myth that you've got to avoid carbohydrates. I've busted the myth that you put on weight if you eat carbohydrates, and it's basically a balance between what you eat and what you consume, giving you a bit of a guide to how much carbohydrates you should eat per day, up to 7 servings per day for a woman, 8 servings per day for a man, and giving you a rough guide as to how you can go about breaking that down into breakfast, lunch and dinner. So as I say, my name's Ian Dean. I'm the owner and proprietor of Health and Happiness. Please look me up on Facebook. If you search for Health and Happiness Personal Training, like the page. Please send me any questions you've got. Next time I'm hoping to actually interview someone. I've got a couple of sports people, one that's a current sportsman and one that is an ex-West Ham player, and hopefully looking at a couple of fitness challenges that professional people have that could be applied to people in our walk of life. And I'm also looking to do a live Q&A on YouTube. Not sure how that's going to go yet. I'm learning technology fast at the moment. Like always, I know a man or a woman that can do that, and hopefully they will give me the time to explain what I need to do. So please keep an eye on that. So I just want to thank you for taking your time watching this, and I wish you a lovely evening.